In Xanadu is about Kublai Khan. Kublai Khan became the emperor of China, and he became one of the most powerful figures in world history. But he was dedicated to his wife, and when she died, he lost heart. All of the trappings of power lost their meaning for him. So that was the key to the story itself. I began this whole project thinking it was going to be a story about Marco Polo. And I was very taken with a book by Italo Calvino called Invisible Cities, which described these fantastic places. In that book, Invisible Cities, in fact, it's a dialogue between Kublai Khan and Marco Polo. But the more I read it, the more I realized that it was really a Eurocentric Italian point of view that wasn't what I was after. I was after a deeper and more Asian story than that. In the process of realizing that, I discovered the love story between Kublai Khan and Chabi, and this came down to a story about two people. Marco Polo became a vestige, really, of the earlier idea. And so I used Marco Polo coming back to report on the various far-flung reaches of the empire as a way of playing and having a lighthearted moment, separating one part of the story from another. I think that Kublai Khan goes through a kind of a revelation, because I think it begins with him being truly a powerful ruler and wanting to exert his power and exert his influence over as wide a sphere as possible. What became really interesting to me in this course of this story was the way that there was kind of a triple pull on the Khan. Between his magical roots in shamanism.
I command the wind and rain to follow us.
Between the type of Buddhism that Chabi was advocating and his own sort of secular will to power. More and more, the things he did for Chabi, that's what would give them the most meaning. So he would say, I'll build a palace of pearls for my wife.
I'll build a palace of pearls for my wife.
To me, a powerful part of his character was finding his voice and being able to feel his personality through the voice.
My love, silk and pearls and precious art to fill the halls of Xanadu.
Which expressed his power, his dedication, and his ruthlessness. Because if you imagine what it would take to build a palace of pearls, how many people would have had to have died and dived in order to do that? And to do that in the name of love.
Most High Majesty.
Imperial benevolence. When I really sit and think in my quiet mind, I have a very old spirit, and that's where Chabi comes from. She's the voice of wisdom. She's the ancient. She's the one who knows everything. She knows more than she'll ever tell. She knows that her silence is very loud.
One of the key turning points is the capturing of the Sung Empress. And this is really Chabi's scene. The Empress is dragged in chains, and Chabi comes over to her and shows her tremendous respect. When she bows to the Empress, she sees herself. She understands that within seconds she could be the prisoner, and she wants to treat everybody as well as she wants to be treated. It's one of the keys to her character. That's a turning point in our story, because from then on, she's insisting that the Khan show more respect to the conquered peoples. And it comes out again in the scene with the Minister of War, who's just ready to have a scorched earth policy everywhere.
The farmers who have slept on this land for centuries know its uses better than we do.
My Lord Minister of War, their ways are different from ours, but no less true. The land itself is different, its winds and waters strange to us. But they have tamed it, and it answers to their touch. In our hands, it would shy away and balk.
What good is it to conquer an army if you must wear the clothes of those you have conquered?
To have successful governance, you have to know who you're governing and pay attention to them. And that's a good allegory for any politics of any time.
I kept my men from looting and destruction.
I really like the little general, the little guy who just wants to fight everybody.
What kind of an army is this?
He's so angry, he's endearing. He's got this little, I guess, Napoleon complex.
Cadogan is a maid. And in almost all Asian theater, there's always a maid character who's also a comic character, but is also has a certain wisdom about her in a very earthy way. And it's Shakespearean as well. That was the other light element that we could bring to the story.
Cadogan.
Cadogan was showing off her mistress, the Empress, Chabi, and by her earthiness contrasting with Chabi's regalness. How deeply she appreciates Chabi comes across in almost everything she says and does. So it deepens our appreciation of the character.
Oh, Your Highness, you're so warm. My husband and my teacher arguing like children over points of pride when both of you are right.
The danger in creating Chabi's character was that she was too much of a goody-goody. Her weakness actually turns out to be pride in that she's so proud of how right she is all the time that she all of a sudden gets this inexplicable sickness. And the sickness comes from being maybe too attached to her children and her husband who are sent off to war. And then she suddenly has these nightmares about them in battle that she can't stop and that are completely against all of her Buddhist feelings, which have been a huge conflict for her. She's moving more and more towards a not killing point of view, but she's in one of the most violent families that anybody's ever known. So as the most powerful ruler in the universe at the time, he has a lot of trouble accepting things that don't go his way. And when his wife died, that was the most difficult thing of all for him to accept. He did not believe, could not believe that it would be possible for her to go before him.
Holiness, I want her back.
There are things we cannot change.
So he went to the Buddhist priest and he couldn't get any help from him. The Buddhist said, accept it. This is life. Life is death.
Take me to her.
He went to the shaman and coerced the shaman into taking him to the underground and to chase after Chabi's soul. So they go through the different stages of hell that are the various bardos in Buddhist belief and catch glimpses of her over and over again and get closer and get closer. At a certain point, even the shaman says that he can't go any farther, so he hangs back, and Kublai Khan goes charging on alone until he finally touches her. And at that moment, she turns and he sees that she's actually a corpse and dead. And it's the first moment that he can accept that she's really died. And then he goes into a grieving process. In our story, he sort of sits on a hill and cries. The upshot was, what is it to be a powerful person? What is it to be in love? What is it to have the fate of a nation at your control? What are the trappings of power, and what is their value without love? Life and love. I had been doing Balinese shadow theater for 20 years. I had come to a point where I realized that I'd learned everything I was going to learn from that shadow theater. So I set out to kind of combine what I really liked about shadows with other things that I was interested in, particularly film. And I thought how neat it would be to make a feature film in shadows. With what? In Xanadu was the first large-screen shadow play that I ever tried to do. Those things come up, those masks come up. I was setting out on an adventure that I didn't really understand at all.
You're here, mask there.
Okay, let's do that. Let's try that. The only way I could find out something was by trying it out, dropping it, bringing it back again, trying it again, dropping it again. And then the hand comes up. It's a real process of trial and error that required a tremendous amount of both patience and creativeness on the part of all the people involved.
Is he coming up with deer or is he coming up with ticks?
There were definitely moments that were fraught with difficulty. And yet, it was exciting to everybody. If we could make a discovery every day, then it would be this kind of juice that would get us all excited and take us to the next unknown step. That's our red dot. We can put a red filter on it.
You could just go. Well, the gel.
My big revelation was that you learn everything from watching the screen, that the shadows become your teacher in every way.
Your Majesty.
And the second revelation was that I couldn't do anything unless I was watching the screen, so I had to devise all sorts of ways that whoever was acting could be constantly watching what they were doing and seeing their shadow on the screen. I began by sticking a nose on the side of my face, and then that gradually grew to become a full-scale mask.
The Minister of Postal Affairs, the Minister...
For a stage performer, it's secondhand because I'm standing here and really what I'm doing is irrelevant, and what we only see is what's going on the screen. Although the figure might look extremely elegant, in order to achieve that shape, because your face is coming out sideways, you have to turn this way and watch the screen that way, and then to get two shoulders on the person, you have to stand this way. And so the actual bearing of the body has very little relationship to what people see on screen.
I listen to you.
But at the same time, if I'm in this very peculiar position, I still have to project some kind of feeling of elegance into that character. And this was like being schizophrenic for the first while when we tried to do it. It made us really, really crazy. You know, it's one thing to just make the shape somehow so it'll look like it's something else over there. But then the emotional thing has to, then it becomes an actorly thing.
Goodbye, Your Grace.
My lord. You're my only hope, Uncle. You've been to the land of the dead. You know the way.
Ah, yes. But my work is to help souls find their own way.
You're a soul catcher, a shape shifter. Can't you bring her back to me?
It's dangerous to even think of trying.
Please.
You know I would give my own life to help you.
You're performing, but you are not you. You're making that shadow puppet perform. So you are kind of like a shaman, kind of like a medium, where you can see the shadow acting more than yourself. You are nobody, the audience, because the audience are looking at the shadow. Any small move is much more powerful than more movement. For instance, when we did the finger thing, just a little tiny thing was very effective.
No resistance.
The inspiration for the masks of Xanadu were Chinese shadow puppets, which are characterized by this open kind of cut. And it meant that the masks had to be really quite large to fit on a face.
Put it like that.
And then I realized that you could have the mask be the same character as a puppet, and then you have this wonderful dynamic where you can have a medium shot with an actor in a mask and a long shot with a puppet in a landscape.
6 days' ride from the jeweler's bazaar in the northern sector. You come to a city so artfully built that its buildings and gathering places repeat the order of the constellations and the position of the most luminous star.
I think it's something magical when you animate a thing. It becomes more alive and more real than human beings, I think. It's like boom. It's like yet another incarnation of like you and this thing. And there it is up there, you know?
La ci darei la mano, la mi dirai di sì.
This show, I'm primarily doing the puppets. So these are the two main puppets that I'm using in one sequence in the show. Marco and the mule. This guy is kind of easy because he's got the tail going on, and this guy's more complicated. He's got an arm and a foot, and he's got to ride him like this, then fall, and really fast, but very, very fast. He's got to ride him. And I'm doing this against a plexiglass screen. The donkey's on one side and Marco's on the other side. And I separated them so they won't get caught with each other. And so he checks the mechanics, makes sure everything's working okay. Then when he gets down to his tail, he looks under his tail and boom, he lets some gas go. He gets angry and he runs off. And he starts yelling after him and starts running after him. And he comes back again in front. Very short, very fast, and then I have to run to another scene.
If you look at the materials that we use, it's really like a children's art class garbage. It doesn't look like any of the stuff could do anything. It looks awful, really, if you look at it. It's just cardboard and scraps of fur and a little bit of foam. But it has a little trigger on the tail, and the tail goes up, and the shadow looks amazing.
This is a set for one of the more challenging pieces of scenery that we had to devise, in that it is a set for the battle scenes where the actors, puppets, weaponry are literally all over the screen and implying great masses of participants and great chaos.
Working in shadow theater is a really wonderful experience. I mean, it's like a live movie. I get to play wind instruments, I get to play keyboard, percussion, and zither, and all sorts of things. I basically get to do everything I've ever learned how to do in one show, and it's quite fun, quite fun.
I play viola, but I also have played a lot of other kind of instruments. I studied Gandhara in Bali and saw a lot of shadow plays. Shadow plays in Bali are just total magic. You just enter the circle of the lamp, and then all of a sudden it's just, it's a real magical feeling. You just feel like you're transported. For me, it's a little ideal spot here. You've got your little setting with all the, instruments you love around you. You can just work with the same story, so at different times you can try different things.
This uses a lot of Mongolian music and Tibetan traditional music. It's sort of a case of recontextualizing these established musics and then adding brand new music that is based on traditional musics and also more experimental and exploratory world music.
A lot of it is Foley, just sound effects.
What happens on the screen and in the voices is quite different each night. So it is very much an improvised situation.
Oh, Your Highness, you are so warm. Let me wrap you up, huh? Here, put this blanket around you. Let me wrap you up. Yes, there.
My background is theater, but I didn't want to go through the rigmarole of auditions and doing this, and so I just decided to be a storyteller so I could be all the characters.
Exalted Majesty, you must!
Really, what I do when I do voiceover is I take that mask or I take that image, and the first thing I'll do usually is laugh. How would this person laugh? How would that mask laugh? And out of the laugh will come the voice.
You cannot stand over me if you wish to understand.
I do men, animals, anything I watch. I hope that I can do because I love to imitate.
Now, you get some rest, and I'll bring you some tea first thing in the morning, yeah? Everything will be fine.
Good night, God of God.
And thinking how we could wreak the most supercharged afterlife experience out of this very simple palette of materials that we'd chosen, we decided that the addition of color would be something kind of shocking once you were used to living in a black and white world.
Performances are an offering, and they're an offering to your soul. I think it's really important that it be live, that it be part of everybody paying attention to the same thing.